going on, everybody? It's me, the PRIME, coming back with another episode of the Prime Nostalgia Podcast. And I am here, of course, with my host, Leeboy. Tell everybody what's going on.
What's up, y'all? LeeboyTV.com. You guys check me out. Thank you so much for your support thus far for me personally and also for this podcast. We got a hell of an episode today, man. I'm super excited. And as soon as you guys see this face, it's a very familiar face. You should be excited too. If not, shame on you. Do your history. But yeah, we got somebody good coming up. And his son, man. It's a family affair in here.
Yeah, family affair. We are here with John and KC Amos. And,
hey, boop, boop. Hey,
so
clap it up, man. Clap it up for a legend. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Thank you for making it possible, Casey. We appreciate, you convening with us and also lending your talent and expertise to today's podcast. And obviously, Mr. John Amos, we appreciate, your years, your decades of dedication to this craft and to our people. We'll talk about that for sure all throughout the episode. But, your legendary status is felt by a young man like me. And we just, appreciate having you on. Thank you.
I appreciate you, young man.
Absolutely. All right, Prime, where you going to take us, man? Like, there's so many places to go with this one, man. John's got a hell of a press run, I'm sure, that's been going on for, if not years on this project, man. And obviously, we're coming to America, to as in the numeral 2, because this is the sequel, is coming up this Friday. And we're excited to talk about that. And then just excited to, celebrate the legend in general. So I'm sure he's been on a hell of a press run, man. We're going to try to switch it up with some of the questioning today. And yeah, man, see if we can create that atmosphere that we always have here on the Prime Nostalgia Podcast, or at least we strive to have.
My first question is just for John, real quick.
Yes, sir.
KC, is that his stage name, or is that just his name? Like, is that from anything?
He can answer that best himself. KC, why don't you respond to that? Since it's about your name.
Where did KC come from?
My father played for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a little known fact that he was twice under contract with the Chiefs back in the day, and it was an inspiring experience for him. And his thought was, why not name my son, after one of the most inspiring moments of his life. And then my mom came with the Kelly Christopher. She had to, keep the balance in there. So I ended up with a pretty cool name out of it. It stands for Kelly Christopher, but everybody knows that it's in reference to the Kansas City Chiefs.
So I know y'all was real happy when they won the Super Bowl.
You know it, buddy. You know it.
Okay.
Yeah, and many more, it seems like, to come. I mean, obviously this year you can look at it as a down year, but that boy y'all got under center is going to be taking y'all many places, and I can't wait to watch his career over the years. That's a guy right there. He got the arm, man. He got the voice too. They call it the frog voice, but man.
You can go ahead and ask a question, Leeboy. We're going to try to break this ice a little bit.
Well, you know what? It's been, I kind of alluded to legendary status. You've been in the game almost over 50 years now, John. But also it's been exactly 50 years since that McDonald's commercial. It's 1971.
Yeah,
yeah, you was dancing, had the broom going. It reminded me a lot of what Cleo was doing in McDowell's. But what is it like, getting your start, kind of, playing your part in that role? And how was it? Did you feel like you were a breakout star in 1971 when you did that McDonald's commercial? Did you see the career that you have today? And what was it like just like landing that job? And I'm sure at a time where, McDonald's was huge in marketing and to be in a commercial like that, I'm sure you had to see something great coming up for yourself.
Yeah, the way I got that commercial was the most unusual thing as it relates to my career, later to go on to play Mr. McDowell in Eddie Murphy successes, Coming to America and then Coming to America. I was getting prepared for it. I didn't know, but when I was working in real life, I was living in Canada, and they opened the first McDonald's unit in all of Vancouver, in fact, in all of Canada. And I applied for and got a job as a trainee. And I started off at McDonald's in Canada peeling potatoes. They had real potatoes in those days, and I must have peeled a couple of tons of potatoes as an assistant manager and as a trainee. Later, I was to graduate to become an assistant manager of the first unit in Vancouver. I think it was in Burnaby, British Columbia. So at any rate, I had real experience as it prepared me for the role of Mr. McDowell. And it's funny, it just confirmed for me God's sense of humor. He said, I'm gonna have you working for McDonald's and you won't understand why, but later on in your life, you'll understand that I had a plan for you, John Amos. It wasn't to play football. I got cut from the Chiefs twice, the Broncos, and maybe 12 other teams in major and minor football leagues. So my career was carved out for me long before I set out to be an actor.
Wow, so you was training to be Mr. McDowell your whole life, like peeling potatoes, dancing in the commercials, man, and it paid off. Like, I mean, obviously you had tons of roles and things that we remember you for before then, but it's just like you said, just funny how God works, man. You can never figure out the plan.
Thank you. You have to sit back and see what his plan is and try and match your plan to his, because he ain't gonna give you nothing that you can't handle.
There you go.
I want to bounce around a little bit. I kind of want to go in the current date, and we'll go back. We go back and forth.
Yeah, let's do it.
KC, how did you get your dad on TikTok?
Oh, buddy, look.
Oh.
When he was hitting that horn, look, he was hitting the horn. That had me laugh. That had me dying.
For that, huh? No, he's always asking me about the current evolution of technology, and I've been hearing great things about it all year, basically all last year. So I started playing with it a little bit. It took me a little while to catch the vibe, but then once I saw Dogface 208 knock it out of the park, just sipping on some cranberry, I said, "Oh, this is fun. You got to have fun first." And me and my pops, we love to have fun, and we both love music, so it was a given that we started playing with the format, man. As he calls for the classics. I go for the deep cuts every once in a while, and he's getting more and more involved with directing them. The camera. Fun working with him.
Wait, he's coming with treatments and everything. He got a plan.
Oh man, he'll holler out. I'll be heading to sleep or something, and he'll holler out about 1 a.m. Hey, Kay, I got an idea. Like, make sure you write this note down. We're gonna shoot it tomorrow, and we do.
That is the awesome thing about having a whole production facility in your pocket with these phones. You can think of an idea, spit it out overnight, and literally go viral or entertain the world the next day. And we thank you for your contribution, John. Like TikTok thanks you.
Amen.
Nice.
And I want to thank all you young people for dragging me along into the 21st century. I'm learning something every day, man. It's almost beyond my comprehension, but it's working out thanks to my son and him keeping his finger on the pulse of the modern technology.
That is also another question I have, just to follow up. What kind of not new age adventure, but like technology thing surprised you the most so far?
I guess you just described it. The fact that you can almost immediately gain access to the public forum with whatever idea you had come up with the previous day. It's amazing to me. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and congratulations also is in order to you, John. You actually just hit 100K followers on Instagram. I don't know if you're aware of that. I was your 100,000th follower, and I had the screen record, and I'm going to use it as marketing for this actual interview. I'm like, hey, that's pretty dope, man. He hit 100K right before we met up with him. So congrats on that.
That's big.
Congrats to you too, young man.
Yep.
Thank you.
I kind of want to ask Casey the same question, because time has changed since you were, younger too. So I want to ask you the same question about how technology has changed. What surprised you the most?
Well, when I went to Cal Arts, where I went to film school, the first thing they said to us was shoot from the hip, and at the time, you know, I always wanted to grasp that concept, but there was different steps you had to go through. You had to get your film stock, you know, you had to get your camera, you had to load it, you had to get a pretty substantial crew. So shooting from the hip wasn't as easy as it is now. So I see the change basically like being a blessing for filmmakers and independent artists of all types, that now the tools are in their hand, and it's taken a lot of the middlemen out. You don't necessarily have to go get an agent and go through all the traditional steps, where you can go and start mass marketing yourself right off the bat. There's nothing to stop you. And that's the most beautiful thing about what the technology has brought us.
Okay.
Right. And I see you and your dad have been involved in writing and producing and have projects coming up. And so I'm excited to see what type of social media and, new age technology we can see incorporated with your marketing schemes. Because I know it's coming, especially with them TikToks, man. You guys stepped right into the fold of the new generation. And we're happy to see Mr. McDowell get in there with the young folks. Look. Or Kunta Kinte, whoever, or James Evans. Yeah, whatever one you like, whatever one hits your generation.
As long as you make the check out to John Amos, I don't care what you call me.
That's right. You know what? Can we get into that, Prime? Just like what our generation may know him from, and what he would recommend us watch, because it's kind of hard for us to be a student of his entire career. Just to be honest, it's been so vast, and we know him for the three characters that I just brought out, and also from being on In the House. That was a big one for our culture too. But John, I see for like Black History Month on your Instagram, you do kind of you've been spelling out your own history, telling people, hey, I was a coach in this, or I did this once upon a time. What project would you recommend for people of my age to watch of yours, to kind of get a sense of the message that we're seeing in today's media, as far as Black empowerment and Black liberation and Black information? Is there any project of yours over the years that you would recommend for people from my generation?
Well, there's so many projects that I've been fortunate enough to have been in. It'd be kind of hard to isolate one project as being exemplary of a progressive movement in the industry as it relates to minorities, particularly African Americans. So I'd say that each project that I've been involved with, not each and every one, but most projects that I've been involved with, the majority of them have had some substance to them. Even lesser known projects, I've tried to take advantage of every opportunity that's been afforded me to push forward the message that we are here, we're going to be here, and we're a viable entertainment entity as a group of actors, artists, filmmakers. I love the fact that so many people have stepped forward and put the priority of the social message ahead of just what is in it for me financially or from a material standpoint. And it's becoming more and more obvious as time goes by and more artists emerge, like the late young man that Mr. Bozeman that was in Black Panther. There's so many projects and so many people making so many invaluable contributions. It's hard for me to isolate any project in my past or even that's currently in the mainstream that stands out as being the most significant. Of course, as we look back along our history, there have been innovative changes made in the industry, and there have been those progressive artists that have stepped forward and taken advantage of these situations. So it'd be a little difficult for me to pinpoint any one particular one.
Well, I know growing up, they always threw Roots on for us. So if you ain't seen Roots, go throw that on all million parts of the series and just go watch, go sit down and throw it on. But yeah, man. So once again, just thank you for your contribution. And I have definitely noticed that about your projects. A lot of them have tons of meaning and, tons of relatable experiences. So kudos. Thanks.
Well, thank you.
So I got this question for KC. Just before we just go everywhere, now that we haven't, but a lot of people refer to your dad as America's dad or one of the best TV dads. How do you describe him as a dad?
Good question.
Growing up, my father, he was so down to earth. You know, it pretty much, it felt like every man's dad. I mean, all the kids would come to my house and play. You know, he coached the baseball team, the basketball team. We were always successful because of his expertise in athletics. And I mean, you know, people always ask, does he swell up on me like James or whatever, like did he back in the day? You know, and I ain't gonna. Every once in a while he'll flex to the belt, you know what I mean? But that only took once or twice. I got on the good foot after that, so we always had a great.
You did.
But I can't say he's like James or anything. He's just the best. He's just the best of all of the above.
Okay.
Thank you, son.
So, as you talked earlier, you've been in a lot of projects and a lot of appearances. And I know this is probably like a question you probably get asked a lot. Do you have a favorite guest appearance, like a one-off or, you know, a 2-episode thing?
Because he has been on a lot of TV shows as guests, you know, Cosby. You know, what would be the best or your favorite?
Well, as regards to my favorites, they run several different directions. I've got my favorite dramatic roles, my favorite comedic roles, and of course, you can't help but think about the actors that you portrayed your role with. I guess another way to put it might be who have I worked with in the past that I regard as memorable, and at the top of the list has got to be Denzel Washington. And I say that because in working with Denzel, I worked with him on stage in a wonderful play called Split Second, in which I portrayed his father, a retired policeman, while he was still active and involved in a very questionable, controversial shooting. There's no controversy about it if you get to see it on the stage as it was originally written for the stage. And then later, I got the opportunity to portray Denzel's father again in a short-lived role in a film, the name of which escaped me at the moment. But again, I portrayed his father, and again, I portrayed a police officer as he portrayed a police officer. So I've got a wonderful history with Denzel, and I got to tell you, he is the most prepared actor I've ever worked with in my life. When he portrayed that police officer in Split Second, the stage play, he actually went to the police academy and questioned and studied those officers that had been traumatized by the shooting incidents that they individually had been involved in. So he always does his homework. He's always prepared, and he's never the kind of actor that thinks or acts or rehearses, prepares like it's all about him or his character. He is always aware of the entire ensemble and what our objectives are as a group in presenting our talents to the audience via the screenplay or the play. So I'd have to say that working with Denzel Washington has been the highlight of my career, although it involves working with Academy Award winners like Ernest Borgnine and various other actors whose names are synonymous with the very best in the entertainment industry, particularly as it relates to screen acting or television acting. I've enjoyed every actor that I've ever worked with, the exception of one or two, and we'll leave them, in obscurity where they belong. So,
because I'm gonna ask, Prime.
I've been very fortunate. I'll put it that way.
He's gonna ask, and I'm gonna stop him. So
I know you want to know who they are.
Not today.
I know you want to know who they are. And was there anybody in my career I'd like to say, come on, man, let's step outside? And that has happened a couple of times. But fortunately, I was able to refrain from reverting to my New Jersey roots of let's go outside. And I was able to stay out of jail. And a lot of actors stayed out of the hospital by going along with the program.
Oh, yeah, because don't get it twisted. You play professional football now. Like, they better know you ready. You ready to knock around?
Well, I tried when I was much younger. I tried, but I wouldn't want to attempt to do that again. Go ahead, son.
Oh no, just saying, when you were on that wing in Die Hard 2, I thought I know there wasn't no stuntman out there whooping Bruce Willis's ass.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I really, really enjoyed it. I wish I could have written a different outcome for it as opposed to being osterized or in a jet engine. But that was the way it was written. That's the way we played it. All in all, it was fun, and the check didn't bounce. That's the bottom line.
Hey. Well, speaking of a legendary series like Die Hard, and we kind of talked about your, your vast career. If you could choose another sequel or reboot, because right now we got Coming to America coming out, that's going to be great. We already know that's going to be amazing, and the sequel was that's going to be amazing. Was heralded for years. We've been anticipating it. Is there any other project that you would like to see happen as a reboot or another sequel? And I'll preface this one last time because John Witherspoon unfortunately just passed away, and we wanted to see him in Friday. They had been talking about it for years, and for whatever reason they couldn't get it together, but we're happy to see you and James Earl Jones in this Coming to America. But is there any other project that you would like to see have a reboot, a relaunch, or a sequel? I know I got mine in mind, so I can tell you what I want to see after you answer, if you don't mind.
Well, a lot of my wishes and dreams for a reboot are predicated on stage roles. As I said, to me, that is the actor's medium, the stage, because you're presenting it live and it's fresh and it's exhilarating to the actors. It's challenging and sometimes frightening, but it's always gratifying. So I would say that play that I mentioned earlier, Split Second, in which I played Denzel's father as a police officer, that would definitely be a role I'd like to reprise, bring it back again. And I think Denzel would be receptive. Of course, he stays busy, so I don't know if he'd have the time, but I think he'd be inclined because we established a great rapport during that production.
Well, there you go. You heard it first on the PNP. Split Second 2 coming on the reboot. Now, Denzel, get at us. We'll make it. We'll talk to John's people. We'll do what we got to do.
Yeah, do that. It's a hell of a play.
I think that coach could go for KC too. I kind of want to know what he thinks that should be a reboot or
what would you want to see from your father's career? A reboot, a part 2, or a relaunch?
Oh wow, that's an in-depth question. He's been involved with so many,
a lot.
wonderful projects. What would I just grab out? I mean, I wouldn't mind him to see him out there in that Beastmaster role again. Just off the top of my head, because there wasn't a lot of dialogue. It was minimal, but he could take it all and do it all internally and with the animals and everything. I think that would be slamming to come back with that.
Physically, I don't know if I'd be able to recapture that moment in my life, but I certainly enjoyed it. It was fun working with the actors and the animals, and my love for animals. And they had a tiger for me. We didn't get too friendly because you never know when a tiger's gonna flip the script on you.
Before we cut the action and go to another segment, Leeboy, what is yours that you want to see?
Well, I kind of already mentioned it earlier, but in the house, I mean, if you could throw LL Cool J back on TV and then get my guy Jeffrey, he was Austin back in the day. That was my guy. We auditioned together. I don't know if you know, John, I'm a former child actor. I used to be on All That on Nickelodeon. So Jeffrey was around my age and we were good buddies. Maya was like almost family, cousins with me. So I would love to see that cast even get together for a reunion. And I think that would be dope, especially when you got L Cool J and Coach John. John Amos was tearing it up as a coach in there, and I didn't even know he was a real football player. So now you learn something every day. So that's what I would want to see.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed working with LL. He's a consummate actor, and he's very, very capable. Needless to say, everybody's aware of his musical accomplishments. So and plus, he's a great guy to work with. So I'd love to work with LL again. And I wish him continued success in his career, because he's showing he's not just a one-shot wonder. He's in it for the long run, and he's got the chops to back up a long career. He's going to continue to be successful. He's one of the public's favorites.
Yeah, shout out to a legend just like yourself. Shout out more legends on legends, man. Feels like it's still Black History Month. Look, we still celebrating, even though it's March. We don't care about no March.
Okay,
that's right.
Well, we are going to take a short break and pause in the action. Before we do that, is there a song that you both collectively would want us to play so the fans can listen while we're in our break?
I refer back to my son on that one, KC. We've done a lot of them in the last few months. What comes to your mind is one of our favorites?
Well, our one that officially went viral was "Lovely Day" by Bill Withers. I wouldn't mind hearing that.
Yeah.
And, anybody want to check this out? It's KC.Filmmaker over on TikTok, and you're gonna see some real interesting creative moments where we're just catching the vibe.
Okay.
Just that I concur with my son that little clip we did of Bill Withers hit, "A Lovely Day," that was appropriate for the moment we were feeling at the time. We were feeling real up and real positive, and we continue to do so. And I think that song carries us every time we hear it.
Okay. Well, We're going to play that during a break, and we will be right back after this. We are back. We are here with KC and John and KC, Amos, having a good conversation, having a good time, and coming back straight from commercial break. I got this question for John, because he's talked about the live element so much. You recently came back. Well, you didn't come back as the same character, but you were in the Good Time Live As It Gets. What was it called? Live in front of a studio audience. How was that for you, coming back and kind of in that same environment in a way, but it's like you're looking at somebody play your character. How was that?
It was a strange out-of-body feeling to watch a very, very competent actor who is also a friend, Andre Brower, portray my character, James Evans, from Good Times in this recapitulation. And the bottom line is, when I saw Andre Brower portraying me as James Evans, it was eerie, man, because I compared my acting with his, and Andre Brower and I had a history of sorts. We had both performed in Shakespeare in the Park as different characters, of course, and years earlier. But he is an incredible actor, Andre Brower. Keep that name in mind because he's so versatile. You may not recognize him in different roles, but trust me, this brother can smoke it.
Okay, you got the stamp of approval from John Amos. Like it.
Amen.
Leeboy, you got anything you want to add before we go on?
Man, I mean, I want to get into. I already know I want to get into some Coming to America, but I want you to go ahead and finish.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can skip ahead, but it's cool, you know.
No. I'm just waiting for you.
We can go wherever we want. No, you want to get into Coming to America? That's what we're gonna do. Talk about Mr. Cleo McDowell. So yeah, we can go right into it.
I got a question. Yeah, because I seen, John, that you spent some time in Liberia over your career, and so you're a proponent of traveling to Africa and experiencing Africa. Now, in recent film, we've seen movies like Black Panther and now Coming to America get these huge budgets and huge platforms speaking to our people. But the countries of Zamunda, of Wakanda, what do you think about it makes it more marketable for these movies to have fake Africa countries versus promoting, real places that people can go and touch down? And do you think it's at all a hindrance to our culture? And what does that do for us as far as, learning the truths about Africa? Can you just speak on, just the fakeness versus the realness, especially, in comparison to your experience out in Liberia?
Well, we're in the business of make believe, and it's easy to naturally you would assume that every film that's been shot in a foreign location was, in fact, a great many of them were shot right in the studio. So, as I said early on, I'm in the make believe business. We make believe that we are the characters in a make believe situation, and of course, sometimes that calls for a make believe, or if the budget allows, a real location. But very often, more often than not, when you think that we're in a different part of the country, sometimes even a different part of the universe, that obviously is, is fantasy. But I think it helps. Certainly, it helps the tourism of those countries. I've worked in Liberia. I shot a documentary there some 30 years ago called Grambling Takes It All Back Home. Now, that was a case where the locale did affect the overall shot. Grambling College, as you know, is one of the world's most famous marching bands in the world. And Grambling had decided that they were going to partner with me in producing a documentary called Grambling Takes It All Back Home. When the Grambling College Marching Band was invited to Monrovia, Liberia, the capital of Liberia, West Africa, and the premise was that that band from Grambling College was going to be playing at the inauguration of the then President Talbot, who was being voted back into office. And I just thought it would be a great idea if the Grambling College Marching Band were present, and we worked it out. We did. Unfortunately, at that time, none of us had the relationships with major networks or outlets. Zoom and Twitter and all that stuff didn't even exist then. So it was difficult to get the exposure that the documentary required. But at some point, it still was aired, and those that saw it were enthused and appreciative. So all I can say is that, yeah, in some cases, such as in the case of that documentary, the locale being authentic did obviously affect the project, and it affected everybody that was involved in it. I had a group of musicians from Grambling College and some indigenous musicians, and we put them in a circle. They were playing Shaft, the theme from Shaft, which was a big hit at that time, was the motion picture. And the beautiful thing was I had indigenous musicians exchanging their instruments with the musicians from Grambling. One kid would be playing an ocarina, or a sweet potato, as they called it in Liberia. He'd pass that over to one of the kids from Grambling, who was playing a contemporary instrument, a trumpet or whatever instrument he might have. And they just kept the theme from Chef going. That was one of my favorite creative moments.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I've heard, so many stories or recently, heard some of your interviews where you talk about your philanthropy, specifically your work with blind children. And then, you're telling the story now of working with some of the locals out in Africa. And have some of your most invigorating experiences or memories come from working with people out on the streets and the people that look up to you as a role model? Or has it been, or do you prefer the memories of working with great stars like Denzel, and the list goes on and on, obviously for 50 years. What are the moments that you cherish the most?
I've been fortunate in that I've been exposed to both arenas, that is working with public non-entities and with famous movie stars. And I'd have to say it comes from both arenas. A little bit of both, mostly from the public, because they let me know what they like. One of the most invigorating moments I've had in my life, and well, it was quite moving. You mentioned that I work with blind children, and I did work with them in the sense that I was able to exchange my feelings about the industry and books and movies with a group of children from St. Joseph's School for the Blind. And that was a learning experience for me, because imagine yourself, you hear people describe different situations in colors like red, blue, green, or whatever, keeping in mind these children that I was conversing with had never seen a color in their life. They'd never seen anything. Some of them had been blind since birth or contracted blindness as they matured. So that was fascinating. That was an incredible experience for me, and a relationship that I hope to continue as time goes by, contingent upon our respective schedules. That is mine and that of the school, St. Joseph's School for the Blind. But I encourage all your listeners and all your viewers to be cognizant of the existence of the St. Joseph School for the Blind and other institutions comparable that service the blind or the unsighted, because it's an education, and you will develop empathy if it doesn't already exist. Not pity, but empathy and an understanding, and have a desire to learn what their world is about 24/7, as opposed to me just portraying a character who is sightless or lost his vision. To be amongst those and to have them communicate with you, not what about their condition, but to show you their love for life and their love for learning and their passion for meeting people who are sighted and not as unfortunate as themselves. It's a tremendous learning experience. You will not be the same if you spend the day at St. Joseph's School for the Blind or a comparable institution. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I didn't take us all the way off track, Prime. I got too serious on this, man. Get us back on track, man.
That was actually very good. Like, he's really passionate about it, which is obviously shows how much he cares about it.
No, and that's why I wanted to pick the brain of a legend, like I said, why we have him here, because it's important that our culture understands and learns from our elders. So thanks again for that, John.
Yes, sir.
I want to go over to KC, because he got the name KC.Filmmaker, and I just want to know, what's on your mind when it comes to either screenwriting or making a film. Like, what goes through your head when you're going through all this stuff?
Well, my first rule is to entertain ourselves. We figure if we're entertained, then other people may be entertained as well. So we go after subjects and stuff that's going to put a smile on our face or make us get a point across, even if it's real subtle, and anything that's inspiring or is going to entertain us, then that kind of lets us know we're going down the right road.
Right.
Do you have anything, do you have anything in store coming up for the people?
One thing I'm most excited about. My pops, my father's biopic, Kicking It with Pops.
Hey, that's exciting.
His whole life story is going to be told. So it's a chance for all through my life, young men have come up to me and said, your father is my father. And now it's a chance for everybody to join us on this journey and celebrate America's greatest father.
Absolutely. That sounds like a hell of a project. I'm definitely in tune. We'll tune into that and let us know if you need any help promoting that. We'd love to get the word out. And yeah, man, that's the story, man. That's going to be the story of not only his life, but your life as well. Is that pressure for you to represent for your father in that way?
It's an ambitious project because he's lived a full life and a full career, and it's still trucking, as you can see. If you just open the news, it's Coming to America's up at the number 1 and 2 on Google News for the last 2 weeks. So it's an ambitious project. It's a major undertaking, but I've been preparing my whole life for it. My father is super supportive. He's coming up with things. The points that he wants to make sure I explore, like his writing. And moments like this, casual moments like this, where we're interacting with you. I'm glad you're happy to be on board, because there's a good chance we could use a few moments of this, because there's some special moments that are happening right here. It's going to be packed with all the special moments that have happened throughout his life. From the drama to the happiness, to the laughing, to the dancing, to the crying. We're gonna see a little bit of all of it.
Okay, I actually.
And right here, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just to confirm what KC's saying is, and the sense that our union, our creative union, goes on, and even here in Colorado, we're working. I've got my favorite place that's owned by one of my best friends, if not my very best friend here in Westcliff, a gentleman by the name of Willie, and Willie has a wonderful restaurant, a wonderful thriving business here in Westcliff, Colorado, where I'm usually in there every morning for breakfast. Because of the virus. It's not open 24/7 anymore, 7 days a week. But those days it is open, which is Monday and Tuesday, closed Thursdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then open on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I'm in there for breakfast every morning and for my morning coffee and my morning breakfast. And that's right here in Westcliff. And after we realized that it would become such a habit to us, and we were coming up with so many ideas at the restaurant, we launched a little, let's call it a little pilot program called Breakfast at Willie's. And that's where we sit down, my son and I, and we kick it with some of the locals. And it's not scripted. It's all spontaneous, but you'd be amazed and surprised, and you'd find it quite gratifying from an entertainment standpoint, as well as informative, to have me having dialogue with everyday Americans that live here in a small rural town. It's enlightening. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I'm sure. And then, like you said, it's a great content hearing just from the everyday people nowadays, because people really relish the experience of getting under someone like a John Amos and just having that normal dialogue. And speaking of, you kind of talked about just going out every day and going to get breakfast and everything like that. Can you give some tips to the people how to live a long, sustainable life where you keep your faculties, you can, up and running, going from Colorado to California, wherever you go. And, you're able to keep up with this lifestyle to people right here, just trying to get through this COVID and make sure that we got our health and safety with us. Right. Can you just give people some tips for a long, happy and sustainable life?
I would say try and laugh every day. If you can get a good laugh out of your life from whatever is happening, despite everything that's happening, just keep a positive attitude. And it's easy to say that, but with everything going on, sometimes it's very difficult to maintain that. But if you can find something that makes you laugh and focus on that, get a good laugh. I mean, not just a little smile or giggle, but I mean, laugh. You got to laugh every day to keep your laugh machine on, and that will keep you going as long as possible.
Amen. Look, you can laugh the virus right out your body. Look, don't even let it enter. Just
Amen. That's right. I remember distinctly back in the 60s when everybody was looking for cures to this and cures for that. There was one gentleman who unfortunately was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And they put him in the hospital, and they said, well, we've done everything for you we can do. Is there anything you want? And he requested all of his favorite cartoons be shown constantly in his room. He didn't want any news. He didn't want any current affairs. Just keep the cartoons coming. You may not believe this as I did initially, but I confirmed it by following up on it. This guy laughed himself back into good health. The cancer dissipated, because it's my contention that if you put your body in the right frame of mind, rather put your mind in the right direction and the right disposition, as he proved, he laughed the cancer out of his body. Now that,
Amen,
to me, is amazing.
That is great. Like, that's such an amazing thing. Wow, we get knowledge.
Look, positivism. Yeah, positivism always outweighs and outpowers negativism. So just keep thinking straight and keep laughing. That's all I can tell you.
This looks like this could be a really good and fulfilling year. You got a lot of good stuff coming up. Like, even still to this day, of course, you do have Coming to America recently, but you still got, stuff you want to do when it comes to, the producing or being even in films like that. Or tell me what's up with that. Like, what's up with still getting out there, still getting up to produce and be in films and
Yeah, why are
still
you
getting
so
paid?
hungry, sir? Because you done done it all. What, like, you still attacking this industry like it's day one. So, what you got on your mind, man? What you got planned for us?
Well, my son is keeping me abreast of all the opportunities that have come recently as a result of things like TikTok. And until he mentioned it to me and broke it down, I didn't know what TikTok was anymore, and I know how the space shuttle works. So the bottom line is, as he makes me aware of the current innovations in the industry, I become more enthused. And I've got a colleague, Ernest Borgnine. I mentioned him earlier, that I had the pleasure of working with several times in several different projects. I think Mr. Borgnine is now, oh my goodness, well, he's deceased. But who else would you say that I've had the pleasure of working with over the years, KC, that I constantly mention?
Well, you
Okay.
you always speak highly of Norman Lear, the producer of Good Times.
Oh my goodness. Well, he stands in the class by himself. Norman Lear he's changed the face of television and probably the greatest innovator in terms of media that this country has ever seen. So I've been blessed in having worked with a Norman Lear, but each time I do work with Norman or some other comparable entertainment entity, it just lets me know that I'm looking forward to tomorrow, because who knows what opportunities are going to come with the sunrise. And that's my approach. We never know. I mean, watching my son emerge as a student into an acknowledged, accredited filmmaker, that's been wonderful for me, because I've seen my plan for him come to fruition, as well as his own aspirations reach a point where he can say, yeah, I'm on the right track and I'm doing fine. He's got his master's in live action film from one of the most revered institutions in the country. And I look forward to great things from him, which in turn gives me hope and enthusiasm about tomorrow. I can't wait until tomorrow, because I get better looking every day. Joe Namath.
That's right. So Casey, you got so basically you got a lot of pressure to kind of keep the legacy going. It sounds like, he's working a little bit through you to kind of fulfill his dreams. And so you guys have really become a team. Is there, we talked about the pressure to tell his story, but is there pressure to also fulfill his legacy? And I don't know if you have children, but to also pass it on and keep it a family business throughout the years.
Yeah, we want to be able to pass it on to not only my offspring, but we want to pass it off to the community. I mean, we always saw Good Times and all the great things that came from that as a culture, like it's like a vibe, and it's made for the people, So one of the most important parts of the legacy is to be able to pass it to the community and let the world keep it alive. It's like a flame, and we got to keep the fire going.
I got a question to follow up. John, do you have a favorite project of KC's so far?
Do we have a favorite project that we've already completed or are working on or envision? What are you referring to? The future, the
You
past,
know
the
what?
present?
I would say that he's already done and his vision of something. He's like, I got a good idea. I actually want to, well, without spoiling the vision, but like a premise. Can you tell us what's your favorite, if you have one?
What about? I know.
Do have one. I'm sorry, son. You go ahead. Go ahead, son.
We go back to when I graduated. My master thesis was called Siphon Gun, and it was in honor of John Amos Sr. And he catches somebody stealing gas out of his truck. And I think Pops always admired that piece, because I captured John Amos Sr. in his most comfortable form. We're out working on his car, but he catches somebody stealing gas, and there's a confrontation that goes down. And it's a very interesting film. It ended up winning the Sundance Film Festival. It even played all the way around the world in Czechoslovakia with a older Czechoslovakian reading my grandfather's part. So as far as I remember, I'm still trying to conquer siphon guns.
All right. So, can we come back to my favorite subject, coming to America? Because look, we already said we've been talking about we've been waiting on this project for years. The cast on this second one is incredible. I mean, the first cast was incredible.
Yes, it is.
But we've seen some major ads, some that look very surprising, very intriguing. We got Wesley, we got Tiana. I seen that you had an interview with Lunel and you guys talked about your bonding experience on the set. What was your favorite, or what? Look, we always asking your favorites, asking you to to put people on one over another, right? But what was a surprising ad and an ad that people will be intrigued to see as far as the cast for Coming to America?
Well, I can't say there were any real surprises aside from some of the pleasant surprises, aside from some of the casting that was done. It was wonderful to see Morgan Freeman in the film, though I didn't have any scenes with him. And so many actors in front of and behind the camera that were prominently displayed, or rather prominently displayed their talents, as opposed to some of the smaller things that came in. I mean, to see Wesley Snipes in a kilt, that in itself was worth it for me, because whoever thought I'd see Wesley Snipes in something that looked like a skirt? But it was part of the traditional wardrobe, so I allowed it, that case. But I was hoping that, Wesley, I hope you haven't flipped the script on me. I'd like to be able to believe in something in Hollywood, So little things like that, just to see all that talent again, the wonderful dancers, the choreography, the costume, Academy Award-winning costume designs. I mean, it was beautiful. It was like getting to revisit one of your favorite moments in your life again with all the concomitant actors that were there at the time. So it was beautiful.
And then your character of Cleo McDowell, obviously he represents a certain type of person. I was going to say a certain type of Negro from back in the day, right? When you were doing the preparation for that character, did you see him as just a hardworking man that just wanted the best and was willing to do anything for his family, include, being a swindler, cheating people, or however people judge him? Or did you see him as that, or did you see him as a uppity Negro type that people kind of, he kind of looked down on people and, I work to get where I got, you know what I'm saying? And I just look down on the people that's, in different situations. Cause I guess, like I said, he represents a certain character that people associate with. And I just wonder how you went into preparing for that.
That is Cleo McDowell, as I saw him, never looked down on anyone because he had very humble beginnings himself, as I did in real life. So I carried the realities of my life situation into the character and then tried to infuse the character with the same work ethic that I learned from my mom and dad, and the same work ethic and sense of integrity and fair treatment to all employees and fellow employees as I was taught to. And it stood me in good stead. There's not an actor that I've ever worked with that I would cast aspersions on his or her performance or his or her personal life or career, because as long as they brought it to work every day, as I felt obligated to do, I had to respect them. So that issue never, ever arose.
Okay. I honestly have one last request before we get out of here. And of course, this is said on many other shows. I understand this is said many other shows, but just for this show, for the PNP, I want you to tell the story about the first time seeing Eddie Murphy in the makeup and him pulling the prank on you.
Oh. I don't have no problem relating that story. It's something I'd like to share with everybody. If people don't really appreciate the depth of Eddie Murphy's talents and skills, they can't take it for granted, but maybe they'll appreciate it a bit more after I share this anecdote with them. We were shooting Coming to America, the original. I I was on my lunch hour and just to relax and get away from the studio or the set for a minute, I went outside and just grabbed some California sunshine. And while I was standing outside waiting to be called back to work, a gentleman comes up to me, a fairly young guy. I didn't know him from Adam. And he engages me in conversation. He says, hey, what do you do here? And I said, I'm an actor. And he said, oh, yeah? I don't believe I've ever seen you. What have you acted in? And I wanted to be polite because you never know who you're talking to from the public. And I didn't want to be offensive because I was acting in a movie. And I just said, well, I'm doing a movie with Eddie Murphy. You are? What's your name? And I told him, John Amos. He said, I never heard of you. And I let that roll. And as I stood there, I realized I've only got so much of a lunch hour. And this dude is taking up my whole lunch hour with all these inane questions. And after a while, I guess my displeasure with his company began to show. And he looked at me like, you don't think you're somebody, a movie star, do you? And I said, hey, listen, man, I'm on my lunch hour. Why don't you give it a break? Back off, okay? I tried to be polite, but he was really, really pushing the envelope in regards to making me go off. So finally, I couldn't take the money. I said, look, man, I'm on my GD lunch hour, and I'd like to be left alone. And he fell out. The character did. Come to find that it was Eddie Murphy all the time with the prosthesis on as one of his, I don't know who he was in the Chocolate Brown or one of the many characters that he's so adept at playing. We both fell out. And he, to this day, I don't forget it. Every time I see him, I just start laughing because I remember how he got me, you know. It was a good practical joke, and it worked primarily because of his talent to emerge himself as a character.
Right. So
even in his lunch.
He really fooled the actor in real life. Like, Eddie is amazing.
He got me. He got me.
And so he was dressed as
he's a consummate actor.
He was dressed as Randy Watson, Sex with Chocolate.
I think he said it was Saul.
I believe he was. And I hadn't seen Randy Watson's character in full costume at that time. So I had no idea who he was or why he was talking to me in the way he was. But I found out later and I fell out laughing. That's one of the joys of this business, when you can have fun and laugh yourself sick when you go to work. You ain't working, buddy. You just living and enjoying your life.
Yeah, well, if it makes you feel better, I've seen an interview. He said everybody he did that to that day, he never revealed it, but to you, he's the only person he revealed it to. So I mean, because
John was
ready, made great character, so I guess that's a plus.
John was ready with them hands, man. He that football background. He was like, I don't want him to find out from somebody else. Look. All right, you guys heard it from the legend himself, March 5th. Make sure you go out there, see that Coming to America. In fact, we're going to be doing a watch party on the Prime Nostalgia podcast. As long as you have Amazon Prime, I believe we can all join in, get together, watch it, have some laughs, and we'll put that our reaction out as well. Prime, you got anything for Casey and John?
I just want them to let everybody know where they can find them at, making TikToks or just doing anything, knowing when the next project is coming up. Where can they find both of you?
KC, you got it.
Yeah, we're very excited. TikTok is KC.Filmmaker. You know, we sometimes he takes a solo, sometimes I take a solo, and a lot of times we're a duo. They call us twins on there, you know, because we look alike. And I would say that's the best place. If you know, Pops is on there responding directly to the fans and interacting with them in the comments. You can go in the comments and leave a comment for us. You can leave a direct message there. Just go on TikTok and hit KC.Filmmaker. And that's where we're most accessible, you know. If you have other means of production and producing, you know, contact these guys right here and ask for an email, you know, and you never know. We never know where the next lightning in a bottle is going to come from.
John, anything else? Any closing words, or you want people to contact you? They just go through Casey for you, right?
Yeah, go through KC for me because he's the one that's usually awake.
I know.
I want to thank both of you gentlemen. For the opportunity, and tell everybody we'll be back. You will see us on a regular basis on TikTok or something comparable. Okay. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
You know, you can't forget about you and me.
Oh well, yeah, you know I got my custom all that gear. Go check out that all swag logo today. I got the all black on, you know, from my ventures on all that on Nickelodeon. But you can catch all my custom designs at leeboytv.com. Pretty much everything there. If you can't find it, then just search again because it's leeboytv.com.
All right. That was all right. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at KVNG Prime Time, and follow the podcast at Prime Nostalgia Pod. And if there isn't any last words, y'all got anything else y'all want to say to sum up this episode?
They can join us for breakfast at Willie's. We'll let them know well in advance when the broadcasts are coming.
And not to mention, Pops is executive producing several projects this year. The first one out is Because of Charlie, a film made in Florida, and we'll have a release date soon. We're actually going to an Academy Award accredited film festival in early April to start to kick off Because of Charlie. And he's got some other very, very interesting projects that he's been asked to executive produce, and I'm going to be working with him on them, and we're going to knock them out of the park. And they're going to be, some of them are going to be familiar, and we're also got some stuff that's going to be new material too. And we're not at liberty to quite mention them yet because we got the deals, but man, look for Pops to be stepping into the executive producing arena big time.
And when y'all are planning on doing stuff for that, promos for that, y'all can still come back and talk about that with us.
We'll be right here, yeah.
So, yeah, we'll be right here.
All the time. You're going to get tired of us, man. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, with that being said, Prime Time is all the time, and we out.